Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I am your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it. Welcome back, everyone. Episode number 14, and it is going to be a doozy. We have got an awesome topic, which I kept hidden from you in the last episode, but we've got an awesome topic that I can't wait to get into and just discuss all that is Lego, right? Just get back into it. Hope you guys are doing well. So without further ado, let's just jump right into this. So the topic I wanted to discuss this week is Lego trains. I wanted to discuss some of the Lego train stuff. The model train community in itself is huge around the world, but the Lego train community is probably not as big, but it is a huge community in itself. It's a sub-theme of a train theme. And you have people that make immaculate displays with all kinds of different Lego trains, their own creations and Lego's creations. We're going to talk about some that I've seen, kind of where Lego came from as far as Lego train goes and where it is now, because it has taken a huge leap forward in the number of years that it has been around. So Lego trains date back to 1966. I didn't know that. I was doing some research, putting some show notes together because I'm a Lego train enthusiast. I think trains are pretty cool in their own right, but Lego trains are just, they're Lego, and then you have something that can go around a track and you can control it. And as a kid, that's what you want to see. That's what you really want to be able to play with. I've got a remote control. I can make this thing go. I can load things up on the train. I can take it off. I can use other sets. There's all kinds of different things you can do with it. So back in 1966, this is when the first Lego train motor kind of thing came out. It was a 4.5 volt motor. And then as they've gone on, they went on to 12 volt, not many years after that. But I was looking at some pictures on Brickset back from 1966 of this thing, and it is so old looking. It is so funny to compare it to where it is now, because you're talking about something fairly compact for the year that this thing was built. It's fairly compact. Now, I'm sure it isn't as crazy as the ones they have now. The Lego train sets they have now, the motors in them are just, they're pretty cool. You can use them, the motors in general, with a whole bunch of other different things. But anyway, I digress. So they went from the 4.5 volt to the 12 volt. A couple years later, I believe, in the 70s, they started moving into that. And then a number of years after that, you started getting a variety of different engines and different tippers and cranes and tankers and flat cars and all kinds of different things. Lego finally, got off their feet or got on their feet, I guess you could say, and really started experimenting with different things and putting these new things out there. And it wasn't until 1975 that Lego got the first, or created the first station, first train station. It wasn't a set with a train. It was a set on its own. 1975? This thing has been around since the early mid 60s, the whole way till now, 2018. That is pretty cool to me to see where it has come from to get to where it is now, because where it's at now is pretty cool. And there's some new things that are going to be coming out in this year of 2018, which I'm jazzed about just because it's train stuff, that and it's Lego. So anyway, set number 182. Yes, 182. You heard me correct. It was 360 pieces, and it was Lego's first full train set in 1975. 360 pieces. Good luck finding a train set now around 900 pieces. There's nothing really below that you're going to be able to find now, because there's so much detail that's been added in. And as we've talked about before, older Lego sets, they didn't have all these special pieces and new pieces and stuff because Lego was still young. Now they have all kinds of different pieces for the trains. It's going through Bricklink and finding these things on the set inventory it's mind-numbing in itself. When you look at the landscape of Lego and you look at it in regard to trains in specific, there's so many different things that come with trains. You could have just an engine. You could have just a little train station. You could have a crossing, which the first crossing that I noticed came out in the first actual leveled crossing came out in 1976, but they had crossing gates in 1969, which I'm going to put the link in the show notes to Brickset for just their trains. Whether you use the link or you go back and look yourself, you need to go back and look at this because it is really neat to see where these things have really come from. They are night and day. Even the tracks, segments, the sections, whatever you want to call them, are completely different. Now you have all kinds of different types of track, and back then they just look kind of funny. They didn't have a whole lot of cross pieces underneath supporting it. It kind of made me laugh when I was going through looking at these. Anyway, so in the 1980s. That's when the minifigs started popping up in sets. So you had different train themes and stuff like that. And that's when the minifigs really started to become a part. And you started getting more than just a train. You might have like a little wagon or something that goes to a train, or a little wheelbarrow kind of little vehicle that has like a dumper on it or something like that. That's when they started introducing some of this. In 1991, that's when the 9 volts came out. That's when the 9-volt track segments came out and switched over from the 12-volt. And I see a lot of people, if you go on YouTube, if you Google YouTube Lego trains, you're going to get a host of all kinds of different trains on there. And what's really neat to see is you have a lot of people that have little city sets in their basement or in another room or something like that. And they have the trains going around, and the trains run on the 9-volt track. Lego doesn't make that track anymore. They just make the dark bluish gray track that's not energized. You have the motor to drive the trains around the track instead of the trains driving on the energized track. If I think I said all that right. So there was a gap in between that, and then in about 2006, that was when the town theme finally stopped, and then it became city. So trains were kind of on their own. They didn't necessarily fall under the town theme. They were kind of their own theme. Then in 2006, 2007, that's when they came in-house to be under the city theme, and trains were a sub-theme. So naturally, trains are all around the city and stuff like that. And that's when Lego really started, in my opinion. They had some really cool sets from the 90s. And as a kid, I grew up in the early 90s, mid 90s, and there were so many different train sets that were out there. And you would get home with your box of whatever Lego set you bought. You could flip through in the back and you could see a preview, kind of like you still can now, of what is coming out, what is out currently. And you're like, oh, I would love to have that. Oh man, I got to have that one. And the trains were always elusive to me. I never had a Lego train until I was an adult, well, a young adult. So it's one of those things that I'm making up for lost time. And we have a number of them now that we've put together, and then you disassemble because they do tend to take up a lot of room. But, you know, those of you that celebrate Christmas can put one around your tree, and then ultimately it ends up becoming not just a circle, it becomes like a little town of its own. And then, you know, your child throws in some other things, or maybe you do. I mean, like I said, many of times I'm a big kid here, and this is a great toy. So 2007, it saw the newer models of the trains. Also, you know, the flex tracks, the different crossing pieces and stuff like that. I really kind of like the flex tracks, but I don't know. I wish the track segments were cheaper, but you know, there's those of you that are looking to save money, there's a whole host of people that you can get track segments from. And there are people out there that do 3D printed. There are companies out there that do specifically just Lego train tracks, and they have them in different degrees, the radius of the curved part. Really, really cool stuff. If you are really into the train thing, then you're really just trying to make it everything that it can be and more. I definitely implore you to go check out some of these people that's what they do. They just, I don't know whether they plastic molded or they 3D print these things. Some of them are 3D printed that you can find on eBay and such, but some of these people have legit websites and their products are pretty cool looking. I'm not that big into it to go spend that kind of money. And some of you that are purists are going to say, nope, not doing it. If it doesn't come from Lego, don't want it, don't care. That's cool too. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, if you're really looking at something else, you want to step outside of the box of Lego and kind of mesh things, you can always do that as well. Anyway, so before I move on to the last part of this conversation that I want to have for this episode, I was kind of in awe looking at some of the Lego trains, and there are other trains that are out there that don't really fall under, I guess, maybe the city theme. You have like the Maersk train, and you have the Horizon Express. You have some of the others that I've mentioned a little bit in another episode in the past, and they're just such cool trains. Even, I believe it was in the early 2000s. I'll have to go back and look for sure. They had like the Santa Fe. They had the BNSF, or the Burlington Northern Santa Fe. Yeah. They had some of those. They had some of the cars that were actually labeled based on real trains that were in production or in use and stuff. And some of that is really cool. It is really, really neat to see that they went out and they did something like that. With 2018, the summer 2018 release upon us, it won't be long until those sets start popping out. And this year we're getting new trains. It's the first new trains that we've gotten in 3-4 years. In 2015, we had a freight train. In 2014 was the last release of a passenger train. And so you get a new passenger train and a freight train this year, if that's something you're interested in. Some people are going to say, nah, I'll pass. I don't really care. Not a big deal to me. All I've seen is some images of what they look like. I must say, they do intrigue me. I'm more intrigued by the freight train than the passenger train because I don't have a little city. And to me, the passenger train just kind of looks boring to a degree. It kind of looks like a color change more so than a complete redesign rebuild from 2014. And that set number was 60051. And the set that is going to be coming out just kind of looks real similar. The color looks similar, and they kind of go for the high speed train kind of deal, but I don't know. I just can't get really excited about it. The color isn't bad. It's kind of that orangish color, and I like that. But overall, it doesn't do a whole lot to grab my attention. I don't, as a kid, I'm not going to want to play with a passenger train. However, it will likely be the cheaper of the two, like they have been in the past, because the freight trains are going to probably run between $150 and $200 easy. And I'm guessing the passenger train will probably be around $120 to $150, somewhere in there in that ballpark. I'm not sure what the number of pieces for these sets are exactly yet. So the freight train, I digress. The passenger train is 60197. That's the one that's coming out this year. So Google yourself some images and take a peek. The freight train is 60198, and it looks electric. This is the first one that I can remember in a number of years that is electric or is meant to look like an electric train. And I kind of like that. I like also that it's a freight train, so it is cargo themed, which, looking at some of the pictures of it, I'm like, okay, this year you got a forest tractor in the city set, which that was at $20. It was one of the first episodes of the podcast. We talked about that. And you're getting a car on there, a train car on there that has timber on it, logs that have been cut down. And I'm looking at the picture and immediately I go, well, of course, Lego is going to have some kind of continuity here, and you're going to have kids that could say, oh, well, I could cut down my logs. I can drag them here, then blah, blah, blah. However, I'm going to do it next. And then it goes on to the train. I like that. I don't know if that's what Lego had in mind, but if they did, awesome. It also comes with a crane car, which looks like it's moving some kind of cargo around. And I like that because it kind of fits in with some of the other stuff that came out last year in 2017. I like how Lego can kind of put themes together a little bit. And even if that's not necessarily what you're looking for, it's nice that the option's there. So there that is. So the trains look kind of neat. I really like the color of the freight train, the green that they used with it. I don't have a green train yet, so definitely something I'm kind of geeked about to add to my collection. Like I said, passenger train, don't have one. Just not really feeling that one. But hey, who knows? Who knows, really? So the last thing I want to touch on today, as far as the train goes, and this subject, trains could go on, just like Star Wars. I'm sure there are groups out there that are just focused on Lego trains. And if you spend any time on Bricklink, looking around, you see a bunch of people that have designed custom trains, using the Lego Designer app and stuff like that, which is awesome, by the way. I've done quite a few of my own projects that way. You really get to see how some of these creative people can take a skeleton of a train and kind of modify it and turn it into something else, or they just completely go off on their own and do it. Sometimes you can buy the instructions that these people create. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes they're just up there, hey, this is what it is. This is what I designed. But the cool thing is you can sometimes take those files, turn them into your own creation sometimes. Actually, Jang, from his city that he has his own trains that he's created. I'm sure maybe some off the back of Lego, using their ideas and stuff, but he's created one that I find extremely unusual, but extremely cool, all in the same. And he created a fire train, a fire train that he has to go with his mock firehouse. And it's just different. You don't see fire trains rolling around, at least not here in the United States. I don't know about elsewhere, maybe in Europe or Australia. I have no idea, but you don't see that stuff here. So it kind of goes into that fictional, it's not 100% real, but it kind of has some real aspects to it because it is a train. I really like that. And I really like the creativity that goes into things like that. So I've touched on where Lego kind of has come from and now recently has gotten to as far as Lego trains go. And, you see different train designs that come out, but Lego kind of keeps them very similar. Even the ones that are coming out this year are very similar to what they've done in the past. And I'm not faulting them at all for that. If they were to throw something really kind of out of the box at you, I don't know that consumers are really going to go and say, yeah, I really like that. The more fictional stuff, maybe I was thinking about it. You could always do a space train or something like that, completely fictional. I realize in space there's no gravity and a train is probably going to float off or something like that. I'm not going to get into that conversation, but I really like the idea of kind of pushing that envelope of craziness a little bit. But then again, that's what you have Lego for. You can build it yourself. You can do it yourself. And maybe that's something I'll have to try in the future. Who knows? Anyway, so on the next episode number 15, already halfway through the teens. Awesome. Anyway, on the next episode, we are going to preview some of the 2018 sets that are out, or coming out, I should say. Not out. They are not out yet. Sorry. We're going to preview some of them that are coming out. City has released their official images and their official set list for their 2018 summer stuff and their Arctic theme, which is a rehash from, I believe, 2013. Not bad at all, but definitely kind of more sci-fi to a degree. However, I really do like that we're going to get some new figure molds. There's a saber-toothed tiger. There's a woolly mammoth. There's a mouse in there for some reason. I'm not sure why. But hey, you can figure that out on your own, whatever you're going to do with it. So that's something else. Again, I want to thank all the listeners, all of you that support this show and hit me up on our social media accounts telling me you love it. Hey, I really like this. I like that. I don't get a whole lot of negative feedback, which I guess is a good thing. I'm smiling, right? If you have something constructive to say to me, by all means, reach out. And coming down the pipe here in a few episodes, I don't know how I'm going to do this yet. I don't really know a whole lot about this, but I'm curious. I was contacted by a individual on Instagram in regard to Lego photography. And Lego photography is a huge theme of its own. And there are some really cool images and stuff like that people really put together, as well as brick films. But mainly with the Lego photography, there are people that put minifigures in weird poses, or they use bricks in just a unique way. Anybody that has seen the Brickumentary documentary from 2015, there's all kinds of different things that Lego is used for in art and everything. Photography is just another form of art expression. So I'm trying to work to get somebody in here so that we can have a discussion about Lego photography. If you have any comments, or you have any questions, or you have any input that you would like to hear about as far as that goes, I am sending out all the feelers to the entire community that listens to this show, or somebody you may know that you are friends with that would be interested in having that discussion. I would gladly love to hear from you or from them, so that we can really kind of touch on this. I'm really excited about this because I'm not a photog by any means. I don't take pictures very well. I don't know how to use filters very well. And my pictures usually have weird things in the background, but the way people capture light, or they capture certain scenes with Lego, especially the Star Wars stuff. I'm really intrigued by the Star Wars stuff because it is sci-fi, and you have somebody that can pose these things and really get the most out of a scene. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be about the one of the films. It's kind of off on its own, but it looks, some of them have really, really looked cool. So I applaud any of you that take the time and do that kind of thing. And even more so, those of you that post them, because they are really cool. I could spend days looking at pictures and liking them on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all kinds of different places. So if you're trying to find us over on our social media accounts, you can do so on facebook.com/The Bricks King Podcast, on Instagram @The Bricks King Podcast, that is where I'm seeing some of the most intriguing videos and photos and stuff like that. Really cool. Those of you out there that do that. You can also follow us on Twitter @TheBricksKing, and our email, thebricksking@gmail.com. That'll do it for me. Episode number 14 done. Episode number 15 will be right around the corner, so you don't have to wait. You don't have to cry. It'll be all right. I promise. And as always, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.